I'm super excited to be here today, especially to have Shelly among us. Um, so for context, I met Shelly about 2 years ago at an event, and I was so blown away. I was like, hey, I need to follow this person. Went on her blog where I stalked her and learned a ton of advice. And now I'm super excited to say that she's basically published a book that you can pre-order. I posted the link in the chat that has a bunch of advice from her blog and also much more. So thank you so much, Shelly, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so you have an amazing and highly accomplished career. I'm really curious to hear how that it all got started. And in particular, what were some of the key breakthrough moments early in your career?
Certainly. So first of all, I'm one of the few people that actually decided early what I wanted to do. I'm a goal-oriented person. And literally in high school, I set a goal. I wanted to run a company. So I spent my whole career basically working to make that happen. And when you talk about, key pivot points or decisions, et cetera, there are a few. One is pick an industry that's growing. I picked tech, not because I necessarily was fascinated with technology and all that, but I picked tech because back in the 80s when I got started, it was a booming industry. And I said, great, booming industries have more opportunity. They never have enough resources, so the opportunities to move up actually tend to be faster as they try to get done all that they're trying to get done. Whereas industries that are stagnant or declining, it's just the opposite. There's not very much dynamicism, so there isn't as much or as fast opportunities that come forward. So pick an industry that's growing. The good news is everybody on this call is studying computer science. That's definitely a segment of the skill set that is absolutely in demand. But I would tell you to be thoughtful about what industry you go into, because computer scientists get hired into all kinds of industries. But if you're ambitious, pick an industry and a company that's growing. Two, be intentional when you get into an organization to decide what do you want your, I call it major to be. When I joined IBM, they had 30,000 employees. And I looked around and thought, gosh, everybody probably wants to be CEO. So how am I going to differentiate myself compared to everyone else? And so I decided to do what you do in college. You major in college, right? Develop a specialty. So I said, all right, I'm going to do that in IBM. And I looked to see what were they not great at. And actually they were terrible at marketing. So I decided to, quote, major in marketing. And what that meant was anything was marketing related as it related to job opportunities when they came up or projects, et cetera, my hand went up. Those were things that I wanted to do. And as it turned out, my very first executive position ended up in marketing. And at the time, just looking at this audience, you'd appreciate it, I was also the youngest African-American executive named. The other thing I would tell you is make sure that people know what you do. Many times you're told when you go off into your careers, okay, you've got the job, work hard, get your work done, et cetera, and be ambitious and all will work out. It's not true. Not true. A lot of people out there working hard and they aren't able to move up and get the promotions and things that they want. And a lot of the reason is people don't know what they actually do. Only the people that you work with or your boss, right, know. The other people don't know. So you have to make sure that people actually know what you do. When you are introducing yourself, right? Don't introduce yourself as, I'm a, computer engineer for so-and-so, right? Or I'm a, whatever, tech analyst for such and such. That is your title. It's not what you do, right? Take the time to say what you do. People say, oh, what do you do? Tell them. Oh, as a matter of fact, I manage the, production system for the main, the main software that actually runs the core of our business in the XYZ field, right? Whatever it might be. But tell them what you do, because they'll remember that. And when opportunities come up, or it's like, we need this kind of skill. Anyone know anybody who's good at XYZ? Well, if you just told them you're the tech analyst or the computer engineer, they're not going to know that you actually have that skill, right? So tell people what you do. Second, also with tell people what you do, you get asked all the time when you get in the job, You get asked, how are you? What's going on? What's hanging, right? And usually what you say is, oh, I'm fine, great, good, wonderful. Well, I'm here to tell you that no, you're not fine, you're not great, you're not wonderful. What are you? You are excited because you finally solved whatever it is. You fixed the bug that's been in this program that's actually caused a problem for the last 3 weeks with the accounts payable system. How are you doing? I am doing, I'm exhausted. That's how I'm doing, because I just spent 3 weeks getting a proposal out for a new implementation of such and such, right? Tell people how you are doing. Answer the question with what you are doing. And that will help people start to know. And that's a way of sharing without saying, look at me, look at me, look at me, right? Nobody wants to work with people that do that. So no, I'm not telling you to do that. I'm just telling you to answer people's questions. Okay? I can keep going. Do you want me to keep going, Jules, or you want to ask me another question?
Yeah, I'm particularly interested in, so one thing I've heard is pick the right job, like right industry that is growing, right company within that industry. Make sure you pick the right function. Make sure you understand like how to tell others about what you're doing. What are some of those other early career advice for this group that you think helped you get your breakthroughs?
You have to ask for what you want. And what I mean by that is if there is something that you are striving to do, right? You get in the company. I mean, the initial jobs are entry-level jobs, of course. So you go in and you do them and you do well. Don't just wait for somebody to tap you for the next opportunity. Look around, talk to people, find out what they do, and then figure out what you're actually interested in. You would never go and spend $1,000 on an airplane ticket, get it on airplanes, put your luggage up, strap yourself in, and then say, so, where are we going? You would never do that. Well, you guys have just spent years investing in yourselves, right? Investing yourselves to get the education, to get the knowledge, to get the skill. Do not go into the office and let somebody else control your career, right? You own your career. And in owning your career, you have to be intentional about it. So you need to find out what kinds of opportunities exist. You need to figure out what the jobs are and figure out therefore what you want to go do, and then let people know. So no matter what job you come into, if what you ultimately want to do is, gosh, I want to ultimately manage the, I don't know, make it up, the IT department, right? Or I want to be a chief information security officer, or I don't know what it is. But whatever it is, it's perfectly fine as you get started and people say, so how are you doing? What do you want to do? A lot of times, especially early in your career, people ask, what do you want to do? What do you aspire to? Tell them. Tell them. Why do you tell them? You tell them because people will keep that in mind and they might actually try to help you. I'm a big believer that if you don't tell the universe what you need and what you want, the universe won't help you, right? So let the universe help you. Tell them what you need and what you want. The other thing is when you're in the roles and you're in the jobs, no matter what job you get, someone else has done it already. It's really rare. It's really rare that you get a role that no one else has done in any shape or form, right? I mean, I think most of you don't have your cameras on. Turn your cameras on. It's hard talking to a bunch of names on a screen. Turn your cameras on so I can see you. Thank you. So, right? I mean, so therefore, when you're sitting there and you're looking at things and you're telling people what you want, I just lost my train of thought. What was I saying? I got caught up in the cameras.
Saying, other people have done what you're doing.
Oh yeah, thank you. So other people have done what you've done. So if that's the case, go out and find them and talk to them. People love, actually, here's a secret. You ready for the secret? People love to talk about themselves. People love to talk about themselves. So let them, all right? Go and meet with them. Ask them, what do you do? How did you get to your position, right? There's lots of information you can find out on building a career by talking to people who are in roles that you aspire to get to, or who are just in different roles within the company. And then use that information. right? A lot of times people talk about mentors and things to help them get the next job. Yes, those are good. But you also want to find people that can help you do the job you've currently got, because you don't move forward until you ace this one. And why start on home plate when by talking to people, you can start on first base? Because they'll tell you, so what did you learn? What were your big lessons? What would you never do again, right? What really made the impact for you? Ask all those questions. You know, I tell people all the time, homework does not stop in school. Homework is just doing the work to be prepared. Doing the work so that you are actually better prepared than everybody else. And one of the things that has absolutely helped me throughout my career is I show up better prepared than most people. And you can too. And especially for people who look like us, people of color, women, it's really important. Because when we show up, they're going to discount us. I hate to tell you, it's just fact. So no need to get upset about it. No need to stress over it. As my mother would always tell me, you can't control what people say or what they do, but you can totally control how you respond. So how do you respond? You just say, okay, internet's like, yeah, I got this. You don't know me. You don't know me. Just watch. And then you go and you nail it, whatever it is. You get it done. You show up better. You consistently, achieve what you need to achieve. Doesn't matter what anybody said. Doesn't matter what they thought, right? So, show them what you're capable of. Don't let all that stuff get in your head. It's not worth it.
Yeah, this is definitely great and something I relate with. When it comes to your point around asking for what we want, a lot of folks, especially early in their careers, struggle to do that because it just feels unnatural. Can you provide maybe an example in your own career or even fictitious of what it could look like to ask for what you want?
Absolutely. So how many, remind me, are people in this group pretty much heading, you don't have your full-time jobs yet, right? Are you getting ready? You're getting ready. Okay. So let's talk about your first-time job. So I'm going to give you, everybody gets a homework assignment. All right. Everyone gets a homework assignment for when they get their first job offer. Okay. You ready? Now, I don't mean internships. That's different. I mean your full-time job offer. First time you get a job offer, here's your response. Thank you very much, but I need to think about it. All right. You don't say yes. You say, thank you very much. I need to think about it. And then you think about it. And you know what? I don't care what they offered you. You ask for 10% more. I don't care what they offered you. You ask for 10% more. All right. Now here's how you do it. Then you come back and you say, the reason I had to think about it is because I have worked very hard to get to this point, gone to school, I've taken on loans, I've got, right? You kind of build out your case. And I've looked at what it's going to cost me to live and to be able to do my job and focus on my work. And I want to be able to focus and not worry about how I'm able to support myself. And honestly, I need whatever it is you told me and 10% more. So if they told you $50,000, you say 55, $100,000, $110,000. I don't care. You ask for 10% more. Now, why is it 10%? Because most companies at a management level, they can approve 10% more. And most people, when they first start their career, they don't ask for more. They're so happy to get, oh, I got the offer, right? I got the offer, I'm in, I got the job. No, ask for more. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is they say no. And you know what? You're in the same position you were to begin with. You haven't lost a thing. And best case, they give it to you or they compromise and give you a little bit less. But now, why is that important? Most careers, as you move up, your raises are a percentage of your base. And you guys all know your math because you're all in computer science, right? So it's all called compounding. If you start a little higher, even just 10%, if you stay 10% above everybody else, right? Here's what happens to your income. So every time you get a job, you ask for more. Everybody got it? Nod of heads? That's your job, 10% more. Okay. So is that a good example, Jules?
Yeah, this is great. So if you commit to doing this, please raise your hand.
Want to see them? Come on. All right. All right.
And we want to hear the stories when you actually do it. Please reach out to us. Morgan can give us the contact information.
Now, here's the guys, practice. Practice or you're going to chicken out. I'm telling you right now, practice. So practice okay, I'm going to call them back, right? The first part you can easily do. It's easy to say, I have to think about it. The hard part is when you come back. So you practice, pick somebody on this room, you call them up and say, okay, you're my practice buddy. And you act like a boss. I'm telling you, role play it. It'll build some confidence and then you'll be able to say it. Otherwise, you're going to choke. Okay.
Cool. Yeah. And then on the second point around asking for help, it's something that folks want to do, but also struggle with, and sometimes they do it the wrong way too, where they go to someone like you and be like, hey, can you be my mentor? And by the way, my name is X. So what advice do you have, or what example could you share with this group to help them understand how to initiate that conversation to get help?
Sure. One of the things I learned early is don't ask people to be your mentor, because the people that you're going to ask are all busy. By definition, you're going to ask people who are doing well and making things happen, moving, right? You're not going to ask the slug who's sitting in the corner and not doing very much. So therefore, when you ask them, their reactions are typically like deer in the headlights. They back up, and it's not that they don't like you. It's just that they're like, gosh, I don't have time. So what do? You don't ask. You don't ask. You just treat them like one. I did that throughout my whole career. You just treat people like mentors, and eventually, not only do they really become your mentors, but if you do well in your career, they'll start to claim you. They'll say, oh yeah, Justin, oh yeah, I've been giving him advice on the side, right? Archana, absolutely. She's someone that I've been kind of looking out and helping her a little bit, because they want to take credit for you because you're doing well. So how do you start treating somebody like a mentor before they're a mentor? You start by asking really simple questions that take them no time to respond to because of their knowledge and expertise. Now, don't ask something dumb, okay? I mean, you can't go and say, well, where's the restroom? No, that's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is you might say, I have a key presentation to, next week on such and such. I've seen you speak and you do such a good job. Can you just give me one tip? All right. And they'll probably give you something simple. That's easy. They do it all the time. Oh, make sure you look at the audience in the eye, right? Or make sure you enunciate, or they'll give you something like that. Great. Now, here's the key. The key is you do it, and then you come back to them afterwards with a little note, email, voicemail, whatever, and you say, thank you so much. Oh my God, that was so helpful. My presentation went so much better. I just hadn't thought about, and whatever it was their advice was, right? So appreciated. Now, what happens when they read that? They read that and they're thinking, they probably don't even remember you. They probably don't remember giving you the advice because it was such a quick thing and interaction. And now they're reading this thinking, wow, I made such an impact on this person, right? Okay, I feel pretty good about that. And then you finish your note with, oh, by the way, and then you ask another simple question. And you rinse and repeat. Now, this is not something you do every week, right? I mean, that's no. This is something you do periodically, right, as you're going. And eventually what happens is, again, the key is close the loop, make them feel really good, is that you can start asking broader questions. Then you can say, hey, if you're ever in this area, or if I'm ever in your area, or whatever it is, I'd love to just stop by for, a quick 15 minutes and actually have a chance to meet you, right? And you know what? They'll probably say yes. And before they know it, you've got yourself a mentor.
Yeah, this is great. It's actually an approach that I've used. I've heard you speak about this too. And I have people in my life that are mentors, and actually over time, they become really good friends, not just mentors. And it all started the way you said. Obviously, it takes time, but this approach of like asking very scoped questions, circling back and making them feel good about the impact they're having, it works 100%. Like even to this day, I'm still amazed, like when I try it and see it work. So thank you for sharing that.
Absolutely. I saw a question come through. Let me ask. The question was, when you ask for 10% more and they take back the offer, what do? They're not taking back the offer, you guys. Do not be afraid. They are not taking back the offer. Because if they wanted you to come on board, they still want you. You're not telling them, give me this or I'm not taking the job. What you're doing when you ask for that 10% is you're saying, and maybe I didn't finish, so let me finish. What you're saying is, given everything, right? I really need 10% more. So instead of, 100, can you make it 110 or, whatever it is. And then they say, usually they go, well, let me see what I can do. Or they'll say, that's just not possible because of blah, 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 right? Or they'll say they have to go think about it or see. But they're not going to say, oh, how can you be so audacious to ask me for an extra 10%? I no longer want you at my company. If they do that, you don't want to work there. I'm just telling you, you don't want to work there. I have never seen a company actually do that. This is just called negotiation. So don't be afraid. That's why it's 10%. Now, if you went in and said you need 50% more, that might be a different thing, all right? But just 10%, no, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, and by the way, to add on to Shelly's point, it's a common practice. In fact, it's expected that you would ask for more. Maybe not so much like for entry level, like the first job, some people don't, but like at my level, like if you don't ask for more, people expect you will ask for more, so they'll actually offer you a little bit less knowing that you're gonna ask for more. So it's an expectation of the job. It's just that nobody puts it, publicly, hey, please ask for more. But now you know the secret. So, and that 10% more, how long does it take you to get it? What, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, sometimes an email? So basically 5 minutes can bring you 5,000, 10,000, $20,000 more. What's the difference of that time?
And merit increases today are only like 3 to 7%. Okay, so just so so it's going to take you a while. If you don't ask for it, it's going to take you 2 years before you actually catch up.
Yeah, cool. So one thing that you sort of touched on, Shelly, is around the challenges of being, people of color, or in some cases, women in this audience. What are some of those challenges that you went through? And I'm asking this question because I know some of the audience have heard of horror stories and trying to figure out what's true, what's not true, and also how to overcome these type of work environments. So I would love to hear your real take on that.
Oh gosh, so much of what happens are what I call microaggressions. It's not as frequent that it's so in your face in terms of what transpires. So, and when I say microaggressions, right, those are things like, you're wearing your hair natural or something. They say, oh, we have a big meeting tomorrow. Make sure your hair looks nice, right? Or professional. They won't say look nice. Just make sure everybody looks professional. And when they say that, they look at you. That's what I would call a microaggression, right? Or when it comes to whether it's, opportunities, you don't feel like your name is the one that's put forward. There's all these kinds of things that happen. That's why it's so important for you to realize and have ownership of your own career and realize that it's yours to handle and control. The point I made earlier where, people are going to say stuff, they're going to do stuff, you can't let that get to you. When it gets to you, then they win. They win because they've actually controlled your emotions. If they can't control your emotions, they don't win. So don't let them win. Let's see. Let me think specific opportunity. I'll give you an example. It's a little different, but I'll share it. I was at IBM and I was actually an executive, a junior exec, but I was an exec, and I'd gotten a new boss. Probably 3 months before he'd taken over my boss's role. And I had a big presentation to make as I'm trying to get funding and support for this key initiative that I really believed in. So I do the presentation, it went really well. And my boss comes out, it's his first time seeing me kind of on, right? Something like that. And he says to me, Shelly, you really believe in what you pitched? And I said, yes. He goes, well, you did a good job. And then he looks at me and he goes, where are you from? Okay, where am I from? That's such a loaded question. So I'm like, all right. So I started to give him kind of, here's the answer, which is my father's from Jamaica, right? My mother, and then I start to continue down the line, right? His mother, and I get cut off. And the guy says to me, oh, you're from the islands. Now, for those of you that aren't Black or American Black, you may not understand what that means. But basically what he was saying is, oh, now I understand how you can be so smart and capable because you're not really Black. You're from the islands. That's what that meant. Okay, so no, we can't get away with that. So I'm not stopping. I said, actually, because he didn't say that. He just said, oh, you're from the islands. I said, no, actually, my father's mother is from the South, from slavery. My mother's mother is from the South, from slavery. We actually have the manumission of when her great grandfather was bought out of slavery. I mean, I went through this whole thing to say, oh, no, 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 I am Black. And this is how we are, right? It was just, you get all these things, you know, along the way in which people will say things, do things that let you know that they don't think you're actually quite all that. The key is turn it into turn it into an advantage. So how did I turn it into advantage? I always assumed when I showed up for a job or a role that the people that I was coming in to lead or to report to or whatever it is would always assume that I wasn't quite fill in the blank. Maybe not quite smart enough, not quite capable enough, you know what? I just assumed that that was the case. And by assuming that's the case, I carried no airs. And what I did was I use what I call a servant leader approach. Servant leader approach is basically ensuring that my team is successful. I work to help my team be successful, and if my team's successful, I'm successful. And in doing that, not only do you help your team be successful, but you build trust, you build respect, you build support, all those great things. And that has worked for me throughout my career. So don't let it bother you. You know, I tell the people, you know, my daughter graduated from Spelman, and she said, people say to her things like, oh, couldn't you get into a real university? My magna cum laude graduated daughter, right? So, I mean, stuff happens. It doesn't matter what people think. What matters is how you show up and what you do. So that's what I've always tried to do into my career is just, yeah, crap's gonna happen. Happens to all of us. But don't let it stop you. You know, swerve around it and move on. I talk about that stuff in the book too.
Yeah, I love it. I'll definitely be using this term as well. So one of the realities as well is that for a lot of us are the only one in the room or one of the few.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it makes sense what you just said, but sometimes it can, you know, it could be one too many times. So I'm curious what other support systems you put around you to help you emotionally sort of get through the challenges of your job or the industry itself.
Oh, so I'm a big believer in creating a support network around me. You want people around you who will build you up because there's too much in this world that tries to tear you down. I call them cheerleaders, and I really mean cheerleaders. Rah, rah, cheerleaders. You need people in your life who are going to remind you, you know, that Bruce, you are awesome, right? When you walk in and you're like, oh my God, right? Everybody's telling you you're not good enough, you're not capable, you're not whatever. You know, they're going to be the ones to say, oh, yes, you are, right? Julian, you know, change your attitude. You know, you can do this, right? You've got the skills, you've got the background, you've got the capability. Get out there and just go get it done, you know, or the ones that when you are feeling down, you can't get yourself out of the funk, they give you a kick in the pants when you need it, right? So you need people around you who are going to support you in this process because this can be exhausting. Right? It can totally be exhausting and it can be hard. And like I said, self-doubt, oh my God, imposter syndrome. I've had imposter syndrome my whole career, right? That's when you kind of walk in and you're like, oh my God, are they going to realize how little I know? Or do they, you know, do I really belong here? When they figure it out, they're going to ask me to leave. I mean, all that stuff that imposter syndrome does for you, right? You need help overcoming those things. It's not easy. And trust me, we all had it. I was not born this way. Okay, I was not born this way. You need people around you to help support you, to get through all this stuff, because it's hard work. It's hard work, especially if you're ambitious and you're trying to push forward, because you're going to run into some walls from time to time. And you need somebody there that's going to patch you up, get you ready, and send you around it. Those are the...
Love it. By the way, we're going to open up to questions soon, so feel free to start thinking about those, post in chat or any other way that Morgan communicated. I just have a few more questions for you, Shelly. One of them is about the book itself. I'm really curious, what was the motivation to write it and also to write it right now? And then is there anything you can share, maybe one lesson or something from the book, to give the audience a sense of why, how helpful this could be?
Sure. So I have tried my entire career to be accessible. I actually respond. I respond to emails, LinkedIn, tweets, Instagram, whatever. I've always responded. It takes a ton of time. Why do I respond? I respond because I want people to see that I'm a real person. I mean, you can touch me. And therefore, if I'm a real person, then you can do what I've done. There's nothing special about me. But what was happening was the more and more responsibility I was taking on as I was rising, I could still respond, but I couldn't meet with everybody who wanted to meet, hear my story, get my advice, right? Understand all those, that I didn't have time for. And so I said, you know what? When I get to phase 2, I'm going to actually write it down. I'm going to write a book to share my best approaches, advice, tactics, all those kinds of things, because I want everyone to be able to achieve their aspirations. I was able to achieve mine professionally and personally. And so what the book's about, it's about how to achieve your aspirations professionally and personally. And I share a lot of, advice and support and things to do it. So that's why I wrote it. And Unapologetically Ambitious, you didn't ask, but let me just tell you the title, very intentional. Why? Because we are told that we're too ambitious, and it's a negative, not a positive. It's not like, oh, good, you're ambitious. It's like, you are too ambitious. It's a negative thing. Baloney, we all deserve to be ambitious. And secondly, especially for the women in this call, I swear to God, we are raised from birth to apologize. We apologize not because we just did something wrong, but we apologize to smooth feathers. We apologize for empathy. We apologize to be friendly. We're always saying, I'm sorry. And it gets misinterpreted. We come across as being weak when we keep doing that. So I was like, you know what? Unapologetically Ambitious. That is the title. We're allowed to be ambitious, all of us, and we do not need to apologize for it. So that's where the title came from. And in terms of key message in the book, the key theme all through the book is really to be intentional. A lot of people will set goals, right? Oh, here's what I want to do, right? Or dreams. The difference between a dream and a goal, with a goal, you have a timeline and a plan. So a lot of people set goals. Some people put plans in place to achieve the goals, but very few people are intentional about the decisions they make to be consistent with that plan. And therein lies the magic and the power. And so I talk about how to do that so that you can indeed make the right trade-offs, make the decisions that will work for you, etc.
Yeah, this is awesome. It's actually it's touching on a lot of key moments in my own life. When you say that, so my story is that I grew up in Haiti, and I ended up going to MIT from Haiti, which had never happened from my high school. And one of the key things that drove it was that one day I set that as a goal. And I remember that afternoon when I just had a computer and I wrote this document, My Road. And then I put one thing, I want to go to MIT in grad school. And then, long story short, a friend of mine who had left Haiti 2 years ago got into MIT. And then as soon as he got in, I'm like, if he can get in, I'm pretty sure I can, because he's not smarter than me. So once again, your story around you're a human being just like us. We just at different phases of our careers.
That's right.
And then I was like, okay, we're going to do MIT before grad school. We're going to go to there for undergrad. And then I went there, and yeah. So yeah, thanks for sharing that. I really hope a lot of this resonated with folks here. We'd love to start getting questions. I can ask some more later. So if you could just do a quick intro Feel free to share maybe one of the key takeaways you have from this, just so Shelly knows like what's resonating, and then we'd love to hear your questions. Does anybody want to go?
We had a couple questions in the chat earlier on. So one really good one was from Julian.
Okay, should we just ask Julian to then ask it?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Julian, do you want to unmute yourself?
You're muted, Julian. Well, I guess Julian is good. So maybe next one.
I can still go ahead and ask it because it was really
good.
So it's, would you recommend unpaid internships as a way to at least expand and gain some experience, even though that comes at the cost of a fully paid opportunity?
I only recommend unpaid internships if you've truly tried to get a paid one and you're unable to do so. But I would not do that as the first step. You know, earn some money while you're doing all this work if you can. But if you can't for one reason or another, then yes, an unpaid internship is still better than taking a job that pays but has nothing to do with your field or area of interest.
And then in the chat, we had Bhumika. Did you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Hi, thank you so much for taking out the time, Shelly. The thing that resonated the most with me was your title of the book, Unapologetically Ambitious. As a girl growing up in India, I do not remember how many times I have been told that you are way too ambitious in a negative tone. And that was something that always put me down, but looking up to women like you, and yeah, that's something really inspirational to me. And so my question is, I'm a data science graduate student and I'm looking for entry-level jobs. So how do I choose that which industry or area do I want to specialize in? Like you mentioned, you wanted to do marketing. So how do I choose? What factors do I take into consideration?
I look for growth and breadth of opportunities. So, because honestly, we can learn anything. And just a quick side, people will tell you, do what you love. Come on, you haven't had that much experience. How can you possibly know what you love? So do what pays and then figure out what you love. So with regards to this, what I would say is do some research to see what industries are hiring a lot of data scientists. Some industries are really leaning in to data science, and it is core to what they do. And this is key. Whenever you're looking at roles, try to find roles that are core to what the company does. I'll give you an example, and it's not going to be on the data science side, but an example is like marketing. You could go and do marketing for like Bank of America, or you could do marketing for Procter & Gamble. Even if the jobs pay the same, I will tell you right now, the P&G job is so much better. And the reason is, financial companies, marketing is an aside. It's something they kind of do to the side. It's not core to how they make money. It's not core to how they build value, right? They build value with financial instruments. P&G, however, marketing is core. It is how they make money. It is the center of their business. So when you're thinking about data science, you want to go into industries where data science is core to the business, not just helpful to the business. So do some research around which industries are truly making data science core to what they do, and I would choose one of those. You will get challenged more, there'll be more opportunities for growth, and even if you decide ultimately that company is not where you want to stay, the fact that that's where you did it will carry significantly more weight than doing it someplace else.
Thank you very much. That makes a lot of sense.
Thank you. So we had another question from Archana. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
Archana, and I'm looking for a picture. Where's Archana?
Archana.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now.
Yeah, thank you so much for the talk. It really resonated with me. So I have one question. So personally, like when I ask for help or like when I pursue some opportunities, I am afraid of failure. I'm afraid of rejection. So that actually, so because of that, I tend not to ask for help or pursue certain opportunities which I think are above me. So do you have any advice on how to overcome that?
Yes. And you're right. You need to get over it. So taking risks are key and critical. And I talk a lot about it in the book, but taking risks are key to actually building a successful career. Studies have actually shown that people who take risks in their career actually move faster and get higher within their organizations. Because, why is that? Because at the end of the day, the senior leaders of companies are actually picked because they do take risk. If companies don't take risk, they're not going to be able to grow and get opportunity. You know, a company is nothing more than a pooled group of people to take shared risk. So individually, how do you get over it? You know, courage, which is the, you know, taking risk, you need courage. Courage is nothing more than a muscle, right? And I'll tell you, I didn't have courage coming up. I mean, you have to build it. And the way you build it is practice. So how do you practice courage? You do things even when you feel uncomfortable, and set some goals for yourself. Say, okay, I'm going to do 2 things this week that make me uncomfortable, and do 2, and then pat yourself on the back, buy yourself an ice cream, you know, do whatever, celebrate that you did 2, and do 2 again, and do 2 again until, okay, you've kind of got this 2 down, you know what I mean? And then make it 3. But my point here is, I always think about risk as what is the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen? I get embarrassed. Can I live with that? I can live with that. So I'm willing to take the risk. You learn so much more when you take risks, and even when you fail. Trust me, there isn't a person on this planet who has not failed. The only people that have not failed are ones who are doing the exact same job they did 30 years ago, because they know how to do it in and out. And unless you want to do the same thing your entire career, start practicing courage so that you'll be able to take more risk.
Yeah, I'll add to that because it's something that is quite relevant for me as well. It's something I have struggled with in the past. And I started to rethink it when I saw something that people call failing up, which is basically people, you have a group of people that take on really big challenges, risky challenges, and a lot of time they fail, but they still get more opportunities now. And I just couldn't figure out how that works. And there's a lot to it. One is you actually learn more, as Shelly mentioned, when you try bigger things, because while you're trying it, people invest more in you. They give you access to executive, to other things. You build contacts. And as long as people see that, in a lot of cases, that you've taken the right approach, they don't always expect that it's going to work. You know, companies themselves try a portfolio of things. They know some will fail. It's okay. And they just want to know, did you make the right choices and so on. And then the other thing is, as Shelly had mentioned earlier, like there's somebody who might actually have done that hard thing before you. So just take the role and then go hit up that person and ask for advice. And then they'll decrease the likelihood that you end up failing. And if it works, then it unlocks like a different career trajectory. So either way, most of the time you're better off just taking on that bigger, riskier thing. And what I see is that a lot of people are calling a lot of women, they don't take opportunities unless they check every single box in the job description. You know, don't wait to check them all, just apply. If somebody's gonna reject you, it shouldn't be yourself. It should be the person whose job is to review your application.
Good advice. Thank you both so much. We had another question from Derek Chang. Do you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question?
Cool. Thank you, Tiffany. Cool. So my question for you, Shelly, is what would you say is the most fond memory from your career and why?
The most fun memory is when MetricStream was named a leader in governance, risk, and compliance. And the reason why that was probably the most fun and most exciting was we had been evangelizing for years about this new space and this new problem we were solving and the whole bit. And finally, the industry analysts who really define all the different categories of software, ERP, you know, all those things, acknowledge that yes, there is a new space called governance, risk, and compliance, and MetricStream is a leader. And all the work we had done as a team, right, up to that point was validated externally. And that felt great because the team felt great. It was just a super exciting, powerful moment for us in our career. So I'd put that one out there.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Awesome, thank you. So we have a question from Bruce Z. Do you want to unmute yourself and ask?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Yes.
Okay. So my question is, I just started as a new software developer, and it seems like, at least in my company, it's a very large company. So we have these, can you hear me? You're making a face like, hello?
Oh yeah, no, I hear you fine.
Okay, so everyone, okay. Yeah, but we've got a large like hierarchy of managers, and it seems like the higher they get, the less they sort of understand developers and the less we understand them. And so my question is, I don't know, what kind of tips can you give us to communicate with managers and executives, you know, down from our perspectives? What are the priorities and things that executives think about? Yeah.
Sure. So it really comes down to what the key strategies are for the business itself. And it's a shame because a lot of companies actually aren't good for whatever reason in sharing the strategy, you know, across the company and entity. So if they're not, go pull out the annual report. And I know this sounds pretty antiquated, but every year they actually have to write it down. They actually have to write down the strategy and priorities of the company for the shareholders in something called the annual report. So if they haven't told you what they are, go get the annual report and read them. Then when you're talking about the programming and the project or whatever it is that you're doing, try to put it in terms of how it relates to the overall strategy. Very simple, right? The strategy of the company is to grow in the small and medium business segment, making it up. Right? And then what you're doing is you're actually creating a software program that will enable you to better service customers. Now, when you're actually sharing what you're doing with this particular software, what you do is you share it within the context of, given that we're trying to grow our market share in small and medium business, this application that we're creating to support customers, we actually are ensuring that they can support customers of all sizes and blah, blah, you know, and then go into your detail. Now you've gotten their attention because it's tied to the strategy. That's where they're focused. And then you can bring them down into the details, right, of what you're doing. It's making that connection.
Thanks.
Awesome, thank you so much. I think we have time for about one more question. And we have one in the chat from Yao Yi Shi. Sorry if I mispronounced your name, but do you want to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Yeah, no worries. Shelly, thanks for sharing your stories. My question is how, what factors have you considered when you switch a job, maybe like from the same company or when you switch industries, like what motivate you to take the risk and not consider like the comfort you already had at your old job?
So first I'm gonna ask a favor, pronounce your name for me.
Xiao Yi.
Xiao Yi? Okay.
Yeah.
That's it. All right. I just want to, no, thank you. I just want to make sure. So what I will tell you is, I tell people all the time, don't run from a job, run to a job. So don't just jump into something because you can't stand what you're currently doing, but take the time to find something that you actually want, right? And go after it. So what makes me change? One, if I feel I'm ready, if I feel, okay, I've learned what I'm supposed to learn, I've delivered, so I've met or exceeded all of my, you know, the expectations that were set for me, and I'm ready to move forward. But I also look at the timeline. Remember I talked about goals, plans, and then timelines? So I actually created throughout my entire career, I always had a timeline for what I wanted to do and when I wanted to do it. So as I got close to the time of, okay, now I should be at the point where I'm ready for this next thing, then I would go after that next thing. And if I could find it in the same company, because I liked the company, that's what I would do. It was only when I couldn't find it within the company that I was in that would actually change companies. And why is that? Because when you're within a company, you're actually learning not just the job, but you're learning how to get things done. And every company has its own way of getting things done. So whenever you change companies, you're not only on the learning curve of the job, but you're also on the learning curve of how to get things done. So it actually can be a drag, even though people, it looks like, oh, it's a promotion, I moved from here to here. Well, the answer is it is. But you just realize that it's also a bit of a drag because you have to learn a whole new area. If you can get the same job, the same level, the same growth opportunities at your existing company, you can actually move a little faster because you actually know how to get things done. So you're not pulling that drag. So it is a trade-off when you go to change companies. So change companies for a reason, not just to change for change's sake. And make sure you do your diligence on the boss, the company, all those things, so that you don't end up in a situation where it's not as advertised. Because trust me, when people are trying to hire you, they are in big time sales mode, and they make everything sound wonderful. Everything sound wonderful. So it's up to you to actually do the diligence to understand, okay, what's hidden under here, so that when you show up, it isn't this, oh my gosh, this isn't at all what I thought it would be, and you're kind of stuck, right, for a period of time. So you have to do your own diligence as well.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so we only have a few more minutes. Any final thought or advice, Shelly, that you want to share with this group?
My big advice is really what I said. Remember, you are the only ones that can optimize for you. That's why it's important that you actually take ownership for your career. Don't just go where people take you, right? Make sure you're going where you want to go. And then within each organization, what we didn't talk about is within each organization, there's a current. And I talk about more about this in the book as well. And what I mean by the current, it's kind of a current of power, right? It's the flow, it's what flows. When I joined IBM, I actually joined in sales, not because I grew up thinking, oh, I want to be a salesperson, right? No, I was coming out of Wharton. Nobody went into sales. My friends thought I was crazy. So why did I go into sales? I went into sales because I'd done the research, and every single CEO at IBM had started out in sales. So I was like, okay, that must be the current to power, right? The path that leads you to power. So look, each company has its own set of currents. Take the time to understand what those currents are, and then work your way to get on the current, because then you have the natural pull of the current. And then if you get in and you paddle like crazy, you can move even faster up to what it is that you're trying to do and accomplish.
Yeah, this is excellent advice. Thank you. Well,
Okay.
I think we're out of time. I want to say a really big thank you, Shelly, for all this great advice. In particular, I loved how real you kept the conversation and how accessible you are to this audience, especially given how successful you've been. Yeah, I know you've always been excited about doing this. I've gotten a ton of value, even though it's probably the third time I'm listening to you giving advice. I'm still taking notes, actually. So thank you so much for this. As a reminder to this audience, I posted in the chat at the beginning of the chat a link to Shelly's book that you can pre-order. I also posted a link to her blog in case you really can't wait for the book. You can already start reading some of her articles. They're all super pragmatic, real, and it's all generalizable advice that I myself am using in my role in product management in Silicon Valley.
Hey, Jules, can I make one other comment? So I have a favor to ask. If you've gotten value or found benefit in things that I've said, I would really appreciate if you would just post about it somewhere, wherever you do social media, and tag me. And the reason I'm asking you to do this is part of what I'm trying to do is just get the word out, because honestly, I'm just trying to share. I want, as I said, I want everybody to have the opportunity to build success and to achieve their aspirations. And so doing that will just expose me and ultimately therefore the book, right, to a broader set of people. So if you wouldn't mind, that's a favor that I would ask. I'm Shell, oh, they just put it up there. Okay, yep, that's me. I'm Shell Archambault on Twitter, also on Instagram, and I'm just Shelly Archambault on LinkedIn. I'm the only one spelled this way, so you can easily find me. And feel free to connect or reach out. Okay.
Will do.
Thank you, everyone.
Good one. Bye, everyone.